It is clear that there's a human rights narrative that is strongly rooted in the voluntary guidelines for small-scale fishes, the 10-year guidelines. It is also clear that at the soul of the sustainable development goals of no poverty, zero hunger, life below water, life next to the water, gender equality, are also where we say that the human rights is part of that. And you find that in the space of the ocean, you find that the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, development agencies, World Bank, governments, regional bodies, big international conservation organizations like Nature Conservancy, like WWF, huge philanthropy, donor foundation funding specifically targeting ocean studies. And on the one hand, and you also find this interest in extractive industries like oil, gas, minerals, that has all kind of carved this path for fisheries development. How are we going to kind of look at fast-tracking aquaculture growth, which is the big Operation Pakistan initiative locally? How do we fast-track aquaculture growth? How do we protect the environment in terms of marine protected area? So spatial planning forms a key part of that. And an extractive industry. But in that space, in the blue economy space, there's very little voice for small-scale fisheries. In South Africa and also on the region. I just came back in end of August. It was a follow-on of the meeting in Kenya a year ago, where they draw experts from across the continent to engage with the blue economy concept and looking at strategy for the continent. There was nothing about small-scale fishes. I agree with you, Elise. The blue economy strategy on the continent does not really consider small-scale fisheries, and it was clear in the commission papers that was there in that meeting. That particular meeting would say Mauritius is the leader in tourism. And tourism for the blue economy is what Mauritius, besides the tax-free haven that it creates for many of the companies in South Africa and also around the world. The Seychelles is the leaders in blue bonds, which means that we carve out this part of the ocean and we give it over to a nature conservancy to manage, and these are key important grounds for fishers to engage. Without consultation, the Nature Conservancy become now part of government. And what do they use to protect the marine protected area? The military steps in. They start using militarization as part of a defense in protecting the environment. Sorry to say, WWF is also part of that. Their role on the continental land and in oceans is quite a tricky role that they play, and quite a compromised role when it also comes to the same type of action of excluding small-scale fisheries as part of that. So we are softened by the Sustainable Development Goals because of the link to human rights. It is that decency that it is part of the soul of the Sustainable Development Goals. But the Sustainable Development Goals on the continent is clearly linking to the blue economy. So on the one hand, we can extract, for example, Namibia is the leader in seabed mining. So that is Aquaculture is, Egypt is the leader in aquaculture. South Africa has just yielded these massive fields of oil and gas. So South Africa will lead in terms of oil and gas. So on the continent, in terms of the discussions, is that we on the continent need to be responsible for our own growth and our own investment, and we shouldn't allow outsiders to come and be the next frontier, but the privatization and extractivism model that Elise has been speaking about is what is adopted at a continental level. And these are serious issues. In terms of the issues of human rights, for me, and the human rights narrative is not sufficient. We need to kind of focus stronger on the issues of politics, of power, of class, and inequality. And if we are not going to focus on these issues, and also through strengthening the voice of small-scale fishers is an important part of this thing. So for me, when I talk about blue justice is clearly an important human rights narrative and rooted in a social justice narrative. And with the Sustainable Development Goals, and also with the blue economy aligning, the gains that have been made in terms of the voluntary guidelines has been sidelined. The voluntary guidelines has all the hard work and the traction that has been going through that has been sidelined, and all of the development is going to go via the blue economy and sustainable development goals. Those are the focus, and these are the focus of many countries on the continent. And that focus indirectly means that we are going to link protected areas and elite tourism, and we are also getting a military precision to get small-scale people out, and criminalizing small-scale fishers by forcing their livelihoods as illegal. And that in itself, for me, is particularly problematic. So besides the kind of blue justice narrative, it's about creating space for small-scale fisheries, but I think it is very important for social movements to kind of not only create traction on the international forum, but to create traction around what is the justice for small-scale fisheries. And in terms of whether we call it blue justice, whether we call it fisheries justice, on a day, blue justice is definitely an advocacy tool too. But I think it is important that they need to move to contest the new development agenda in terms of the growth in the ocean, the coastal, and the lakes. I must admit, Elise, that I think that the grabbing narrative has not really gained traction within social movements. I think the grabbing narrative is an agenda or is a push from critical scholarships in the ocean space to say that this is what's happening and this is, but within the social movements, I don't really think it's properly understood. But I do see that there's a strong link between the blue justice and the grabbing narrative, because that is definitely a link between what is actually happening for small-scale fisheries. And I think that social movements has a lot more work to be able to do, to unpack and to grapple with these concepts of blue economy and to kind of form a strategy. Because within the social movement, there are ideological differences between WFFP and WFF. There are strong ideological differences as to what these organizations stand for. And I think it is important that these need to be unpacked. Jackie Sundi and I know very well the role of the ICSF in terms of on the international platform. But I also feel that we as academics need to understand what is our role and how do we play a supportive role in the social movements, but not setting the agenda of the social movements. The social movements need to set their own agenda. But in many platforms that I've been in the last 10 years, I find that the social movements are saying the same thing the FAO is saying. The presentation become key policy presentation, policy engagement. It is that kind of spaces where you're at the global platform. But for me, it is time to start doing the work. And I think all that critical reflection needs to go on us as academics as to what role we are playing. It needs to be in terms of conservation NGOs, in terms of what role they are playing. Because the conservation NGO cannot play a role of the government. And we need to be careful stepping into that role of government is important. So I think it is when I kind of elaborate in terms of thinking of the concept of blue justice as an advocacy tool, as linked to blue grabbing, but also that this concept needs to relate to the politics, the political, the economic, and the ecological crises that we are in. And I think that is where I'm going to end.